Alright guys, let's get started. So I'm taking the Angel Eye Base Primer by Luscious Cosmetics and I'm taking that on my finger, trying to blend it out on my eyes. I really like this primer because it cancels out all the veins and darkness on the eyes, but it's a little thick, which is why I'm going back in with a brush and then a beauty blender just to make sure that I'm picking up all the excess and there are no harsh lines. Then I'm taking the matte highlight shade from the palette and I'm going to set my primer down so that there's no tackiness and the colors can blend seamlessly on top of the primer. I'm now taking my first transition shade on my Hakuhodo J5522 blending brush. I'm going to place most of this color on the outer corners and then I'm going to drag that slowly on the inner parts of my eyes as well. I just quickly want to mention that I'm not going to fast forward any of this blending because I want you guys to see exactly how long it takes to actually blend a crease shade and to get that beautiful blown out kind of a look. Also notice my eye shape. I have downward pointing, very slightly hooded eyes. My eyes are not completely hooded because when I open them, you can still see my lid all the way from the inside to the outside. But there is a part of the hood that actually covers my crease. So what I'm going to make sure is that when I open my eyes, I can still see the transition shade that I've laid down. And to do that, I'm just going to try and blend it a little higher. This tip can also work if you have entirely hooded eyes. You just want to make sure that you blend your crease shade a little bit higher in your crease. Once you're satisfied with the way that your transition shade is blended, you're just going to flick it out on the outer corners a little bit high. This is going to give your eyes the illusion of being lifted up and give it a cat eye kind of an effect. Now I'm picking up the very next shade, the sixth shade from the first row on the same brush, and I'm going to place that right on top of the first transition color, maybe just a little bit lower than the first color. This shade is a hair darker than the first shade that we laid down, so this is going to start adding a little bit depth and dimension to your eyes. Again, once I'm satisfied with the way that the blending looks, I'm going to start flicking the eyeshadow on the outer corners of the eye. After that, I'm going to pick up one of my favorite brushes of all time. This is the Wayne Goss number 3 brush. I don't have any product on this brush, but I'm going to use it after every single step just to make sure that everything is nice and blended and looks seamless. Now I'm taking the center shade from the palette on my Hakuhodo J5533 blending brush. I'm going to place most of the color on the outer corners, very slightly dragging it on the inner parts of the eyes as well. Again, I'm going to make sure that as I open my eyes, I can still see that color and it does not get swallowed away in my crease. So I'm putting most of the pigment on the outer parts of my eyes so that it has depth and dimension in it, and I'm going to very slowly drag it all the way to the inner parts of my eyes as well. And like every other step, I'm just going to make sure that once I'm happy with the blending, I'm flicking it out on the outer corners. Again, going back in with the Wayne Goss number 3 brush, making sure everything is blending in seamlessly. For any other day look, I would leave it at that. I would not add any more depth to the eye, but since this is Eid day, I wanted to add just a little more depth. I'm picking up my Shikahodo C10 and I'm going to put the third color from the last row on my outer corners. I'm just placing the color right now, not blending it just yet because I want to blend it with a different brush, and I'm going to place all of that pigment just on my outer corners. Now I'm going to go in with the Wayne Goss number 5 brush. Now the bristles on this brush are so soft that they would not move around the product too much. They're just going to make sure there are no harsh lines, and I just want this color just on the outer corners, which is why I wanted to use this brush right here. For my lids, I'm picking up the fourth shade from the palette and I'm going to take that on Inglot 22T flat synthetic shader brush. I'm placing the color all over my lid. You could totally maximize the intensity of this eyeshadow by using Fix Plus or any kind of fixing medium, but I did not want to do that because I wanted to keep the shimmer a little low key because it was a daytime look. Now, if your dress has more soft summery colors, for example, soft yellows, blues, or pinks, I would suggest you stop right here. You can totally skip the next step. But I thought that if your colors weren't as summery, then this eye look was a little too warm for that. The pinks and the golds were a little too bright for that, which is why I wanted to neutralize the look a little bit. So I'm taking the second last shade from the third row and I'm going to just pop that with my fingers right on top of this shade just to neutralize the look a little bit more. This combination definitely looks a lot more neutral than the first shade that we laid down. Now I barely touched my Wingar's number 5 brush in the second shade from the last row, and I'm going to again make sure that I'm blending everything in but not moving the product too much. So I don't want the intensity of the lid shade to go anywhere, but I do want to make it look blended. Once again, I'm going to pick up my trusty, my Wayne Goss number 3 brush, and I'm going to swipe it across my eye in circular motions, just making sure everything is nice and blended. I don't have any additional product on this brush. Alright, and now I'm mixing in and picking up the first two shades on my Shikahodo GSN07 brush, and I'm putting that as my brow bone highlight. And unfortunately, this is where my camera actually stopped recording for a while. In the meantime, all I did was I tightlined with a black eyeliner and I put some brown eyeliner in my waterline because I did not want my waterline to be too harsh. Then I picked up a fluffy blending brush, my Morphe M521, and I picked up one of the matte shades from the second row. I'm just buffing that brush on my lower lash line to very softly smoke it out a little bit. I'm not using really harsh colors here. Then on my Makeup Forever 212 brush, I'm taking that center shade from the palette, again smoking out my lower lash line even further. Next, I'm also taking the second last shade from the first row, again on Makeup Forever 212, and I'm going to buff my lower lash line even further. To highlight my inner corners, I'm again mixing the first two shades from the palette and placing them on my inner corners. Then I'm going to curl my lashes. I'm going to take my time with it because I want to make sure that all of my hair are curled. I'm not going to be wearing any falsies. So once I'm satisfied with that, twisting and turning my curler around a couple of times, I'm going to take the L'Oreal Butterfly Mascara and I'm going to coat just my upper lashes. Putting mascara on the lower lashes really makes them look smoky, so that we're gonna do at the night time. But I do want to mention that if you want to pray during the day, your mascara is going to run down your face. This is not a waterproof mascara, so if you want to pray, you might want to use something waterproof or at least water resistant. That's pretty much it for the daytime look. Because I was experimenting with artificial lighting for the first time, I did not have any daylight when I filmed this. My lighting is a little bit off and the colors might not have come as vibrant and beautiful, and the contrast might not have been that high. But in person, you're gonna have to take my word for it. This actually looked really beautiful and very appropriate for something like Eid Day. Now let's transition into the nighttime look, and it's actually going to take very little time to go from really soft to really smoky. I'm again taking this Shikahodo Z10 blending brush, which I used earlier to pack color on my outer corners. I'm taking the third shade from the third row, and now I'm packing the color on my outer corners as well as my inner corners because I really want my eyes to look smoky, and I'm kind of doing a halo eye here where I'm trying to make my inner corners and my outer corners look really smoky and dark, and then I'm going to have a really nice shimmer on my center lid. After packing on the color on my outer and inner corners, I'm going to drag my brush between the two corners like a rainbow, and I'm going to join the two corners together. Then again, I'm going to pick up my Wayne Goss number 3 brush with no product on it and making sure that there are no harsh lines. Everything must look nice and blended. Then I'm going to take e.l.f. glitter glue and I'm going to pop that right in the center of my lid because that's where I'm going to try and put on some shimmer, but this time I really want the shimmer to stand out. For the center of my lid, I'm actually going to take the second shade from the fourth row. This is one of my absolute favorite shades from the entire palette, and I think that this was the most neutral look that you could get out of this palette. This is the kind of look that would go with any single dress shade, you know. So I'm just taking that on my fingers. That's how I feel you get the most intensity out of these shades. The glitter really helps. So I'm going to pop that on the center of my lid, all the way up to my crease. Then I'm going to take my Wayne Gauze number 5 brush, and I'm going to take that second shade from the second last shade from the second row. Again, I'm going to rainbow the shade on my crease, or a little above my crease, and I'm going to join the inner corners with the outer corners, making sure there are no harsh lines between the glitter and the corners. Now I'm picking up the third shade from the last row, and I'm going to smoke out my inner and outer corners some more. Then I'm going to pick up the Wayne Gauze number 3 brush. As usual, I'm just going to make sure everything is nice and blended. Now I'm taking this brush that came in a brush set. I don't know what it's called, but I'm taking my Inglot Gel eyeliner number 77, and I'm going to take excruciatingly long to draw this wing. So this is the part that I'm just going to fast forward because it's boring and pointless. I'm also going to take the same eyeliner and put that in my lower waterline as well. During the daytime, we were just wearing a brown eyeliner in the waterline, but this time we really want to smoke things out a little bit more. To smoke out my lower lash line, I'm just going to pick up just any regular pencil brush. First, I'm going to pick up the third shade from the last row, then I'm going to pick up the fourth shade from the last row, and I'm going to smoke out my lower lash line. Again, I'm going to mix the first two shades from the palette, and I'm going to highlight my inner corners as well as my brow bones. To get rid of the fallout on my face, I took my Morphe E3 with a little bit of powder on it, and I just flicked off all the fallout. Then I took the mascara and I put it on my lower lash line. We did not have any mascara during the day on our lower lash line. Then to make the cat eye effect more prominent, I'm going to stamp a little bit of powder on the sides of my eyes in the shape that I want. This is kind of going to act like a baking process, and then I'm just going to flick that powder away with the Morphe M438 brush just after like 10 or 15 seconds. So yeah guys, that is the completed night look. Again, it might not look as vibrant or as wonderful as it does in pictures. I'm more well versed with how to take pictures without daylight. Filming, not so much. So anyways guys, I still hope you found this video helpful and you found it entertaining. If you did, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and do not forget to subscribe before you leave. I'll see you guys in my next video. Thank you for hanging out with me. Bye bye.